Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hari Bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nittai Gauranga, Nittai Gauranga. Nittai, 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 Nittai Gauranga. Jai Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana. Jaya Sachinandana, Gaura Hare. Patita Pavana Gaura Hare. Gaura, Gaura, Gaura Hare. Patita Pavana Gaura Hare. Nittai Gaura Haribal, 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 Haribal. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Shtottara Satashi Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhattadas Raghunath Sadagoswami Prabhu Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vraja Bhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Gangamai Yamunamai Bhakti Devi Tulasi Maharani Ki Harinam Sankirtan Yajna Ki Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Shri Radha Mahadhava Shri Narsinghadev Shri Panchatattva Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Nittai Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 14, Text 27. Yasya Navadya Charitam Manasino Grinanti Avidya Patalam Bibitsavaha Nirasta Samyati Shayo Api Yat Swayam Vishachachariyam Acharat Gati Satam Yasya Navadya Charitam Manishino Grinanti Avidya Patalam Bibitsavaha Nirasta Samyati Shayo Api Yat Swayam Vishachachariyam Acharat Gati Satam Yasya Navadya Charitam Manishino Grinanti avidya patalam bibitsavah Nirasta samyatishayo api yat swayam Pishachacharya macharat gati satam. Yasya, whose, anavadya, unimpeachable, acharitam, character, manishinaha, great sages, grinanti, follow, avidya, nescience, patalam, mass, bibitsavaha, desiring to dismantle, nirasta, nullified, samya, equality, atishaya, greatness, api, in spite of, yet, as, swayam, personally, pishacha, devil, charyam, activities, acharat, performed, gatihi, destination, satam, of the devotees of the Lord. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, H.H Bhakti Vinod Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation: although no one in the material world is equal to or greater than Lord Shiva, and although his unimpeachable character is followed by great souls to dismantle the mass of nescience, he nevertheless remains as if a devil to give salvation to all devotees of the Lord. Please repeat. Although no one in the material world is equal to or greater than Lord Shiva, and although his unimpeachable character is followed by great souls to dismantle the mass of nescience, he nevertheless remains as if a devil to give salvation to all devotees of the Lord. Purport: Lord Shiva's uncivilized, devilish characteristics are never abominable because he teaches the sincere devotees of the Lord how to practice detachment from material enjoyment. He is called Mahadeva, or the greatest of all demigods, and no one is equal to or greater than him in the material world. He is almost equal with Lord Vishnu, although he always associates with Maya, Durga. He is above the reactionary stage of the three modes of material nature. And although he is in charge of devilish characters in the mode of ignorance, he is not affected by such association. Om Tat Sat. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatana Vitamatang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Charine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabho Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. This is a very controversial subject to discuss. And this, although this particular chapter is pregnancy of Diti in the evening, this is about Lord Shiva. Particularly because the husband of Diti is warning her, sort of scaring her. Watch out. Don't request this of me, or don't force this of me. Because Lord Shiva is moving around at this time. And in 7 verses he describes what Lord Shiva can do to you, who he is, what possibly will happen to you. In other words, it's mentioned that if you ask me to engage with you in this way at this time, then I warn you these are the repercussions. Why? Because the person in charge of this time and who can influence you the most is Lord Shiva. And Shiva is like this. In this way, incidentally, in the process of conversation with his wife, who was making an unreasonable demand at the wrong time to him, Kashyapa Muni is warning his wife, describing Lord Shiva. So sometimes there is a hyperbole. Here it says, devil-like. So obviously we know that we can understand who Lord Shiva is. Especially Lord Chaitanya's devotees can understand Shiva much better. Because they can accommodate beyond black and white, beyond the Dvandva Moha of this world. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Dvandva Mohena Bharata. Binaries and dualities that everybody is stuck with. Either it is this or it is that. And we have read in Prabhupada's books how the living entity claims to be God or is envious of God. And we have heard about the absolute truth, Krishna, beyond all dualities. And in this way, we know that Lord Chaitanya brought to us an understanding, Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneous oneness and difference. So I think Lord Chaitanya's devotees can accommodate Lord Shiva properly in his position, because they can understand that somebody can be grey and not just black and white, and still be absolute if necessary. So these are very important points mentioned here by Prabhupada. Generally it's mentioned that Shiva Tattva is very difficult to understand as much as Guru Tattva is difficult to understand. It's just that we need to get out of this duality understanding. So Prabhupada is mentioning here very nicely how Lord Shiva, he is almost equal with Lord Vishnu. And I was just reading in a previous purport here, Lord Shiva is not an ordinary living entity, nor is he in the category of Vishnu or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? He's not in that category, but he's almost like that. And neither is he a living entity. And you can see that he's far, far greater than the topmost living entity, Brahma. So in this way, he has got a special category, a principle. And that is being mentioned here, highlighted here in the purport. So I am just briefly stating and trying to understand who Lord Shiva is that Kashyapa Muni is speaking of. See, Lord Shiva is playing several roles in his position as Lord Shiva, as one of the Trimurtis. He's playing a particular role in this world, in this manifestation, the material manifestation. We also hear that Lord Shiva is a very exalted position. In the spiritual world, he is Sadashiva. And he serves Krishna. He serves Krishna in a very intimate way. He serves Krishna as Gopishwara. Wherever his holy dham is manifest, he is there to guard the holy dham. And whenever anybody needs to enter, or even keeping guard of the Rasa Leela of the Lord, he is in charge. Anybody who goes on Vrindavan Parikrama would hear this. In Vrindavan, in the land of Krishna, you will see Lord Shiva prominently placed in many places. And you see many great exalted devotees of the Lord worshipping Lord Shiva. Sanatana Goswami worshipped Lord Shiva. Every day he would go and take darshan of Gopeshwara Mahadev. And then seeing his old age and his inability to do that, Lord Shiva came in his dream and said, you don't have to do this. You don't have to come and see me every day. And Sanatana Goswami said, I have to do this every day. And it seems Lord Shiva moved closer to Sanatana Goswami so that he can take an easier darshan. In this way, there's an intimate relationship with devotees of Krishna and Lord Shiva because they see him as a powerful devotee, as a wonderful devotee. Vaishnavanam yata sambhu. This is mentioned. So we have an intimate Vaishnava relationship with Lord Shiva. I'm speaking this because I come from preaching in South India, and there it's like distinctly different. Shaivites and Vaishnavites, they fight with each other like nothing. And there's a whole history of their fights. I think even in the north, it may be much lesser in the north. But in the south of India, there is a distinct hatred. If you are belonging to a Shaivite clan, then some other Vaishnavites don't want to see you. Sometimes if there's a demigod temple, they won't even look that side. As they got blinds, they'll walk across. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Lord Shiva's temple. He went to Devi's temple. He did Harinam Sankirtan. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Because we have the right understanding. Vaishnavanam yata Sambhu. When you see Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava, then you can see him in completely different light. Because here, Kashyapa Muni is carrying his wife, but he looks reddish. He's got hair, ashen hair, and all the cremation ground smoke and dust, all that is in his hair. And he looks so deadly. He's scary. She's carrying her. But these are external features of a very exalted Vaishnava. So, although Lord Shiva can be very easily misunderstood in this world, and he is misunderstood, he remains what he is and does his seva to Krishna. An amazing character. This is the meaning of unimpeachable character. Whatever the externals may be, whatever even externally the service that I've been asked to do may be, I am deeply rooted and fixed in my devotion to Krishna. That you can see in Lord Shiva. That you can see in Lord Shiva. So, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita describes how Narada Muni glorified Lord Shiva. And he said, you are the greatest of all devotees. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam, Vaishnavanam yata Sambhu. And Lord Shiva said, no, I am not. If I am the greatest of all devotees, why am I asked to do such seva? Like preach Mayavad philosophy and preach and take people away from Krishna. I got a very thankless task to do. Why I've been asked to destroy the whole universe, accepting tamoguna. Look at all the services I do. I don't stay in Vrindavan. I don't stay and take part in this and that and preaching and everything. I'm given certain services. And in turn, Narada Muni told him, it is because you are able to do these services that you have been given this service. Because only you can do it. Therefore, you are very exalted. Therefore, you are very exalted. So sometimes we wonder why we have been given certain types of services. Why should I do this? Bhakti Vinod Swami Prabhupada could also have taught, why am I asked to do this? Go to the Western world, to a foreign land, and preach Krishna consciousness from there. What a amazing task. What a formidable task. In fact, Prabhupada prayed to Rupa Goswami, how will I ever achieve this? It's so far away. It's so difficult for me to do. But he happened to do it. He knew he was the chosen one to do this. He did it. Similarly, those who are entrusted with these type of services are definitely very exalted devotees. And while they are doing these services, sometimes there is difficult types of challenges, and still they are exalted. And while they may even sometimes blunder temporarily, they are still exalted. Lord Shiva, he said that I have given a lot of boons to enemies of Krishna, to Ravana, to Jayadratha, to Shalva, to Vrakasura, to all these type of people I gave boons. And it works against Krishna consciousness. But I had to do these things. Because I know very well Krishna knows how to adjust these things very well at the right time. He was very confident of what he was doing. So this very deep understanding between a very, very exalted pure devotee and Krishna and the leelas that they would perform are not so easy for us to understand. So externally Lord Shiva looks and does things that seem very different. He joined Banasura in his fight against Krishna. Arey Baba, you're saying Vaishnavanam yata Sambhu, why did he fight against Krishna? He joined Banasura and let loose all his weapons, Pashupatastra, everything against Krishna. And Krishna finished Banasura and he chopped off all his hands and finally he surrendered. And in his fight, it so happened that especially in this fight with Kashi Raja, Krishna finished the whole of Varanasi. Sudarshan Chakra destroyed Varanasi. And Lord Shiva ran, Shishi Radha Madhava Ghi. And Lord Shiva ran out of Kashi. And it seems he came here to Navadvip. Harihari Kshetra. That's where he resided. And later he got to reside in other places. So it's mentioned that these are entwined within the leelas of Krishna. These types of happenings. And Lord Shiva is performing these actions with full consciousness of Krishna. For instance, he gave this boon to Vrikasura. And Vrikasura said, I want to try it out on you. And Lord Shiva was running. And Krishna instantly appeared as a brahmachari. And he bewildered Vrikasura and had him try it out on himself. And in this way destroyed Vrikasura. And he mildly advised Lord Shiva to be careful how he is giving boons. So this is a very exalted devotee. Is he wrong in his judgment of what he should do, how he should do? Possibly. That doesn't make any judgment about his devotion to Krishna. So when we judge Vaishnavas, sometimes we make the mistake of judging them in a different plane, in a material plane. And invariably in this material world, something always happens. There's some blundering somewhere. And even when very exalted souls can be involved in it. It happened to Akrura. It happened to so many exalted devotees. But that doesn't in any way take away from their amazing devotion to Krishna. So we should be careful how we judge Lord Shiva. Similarly, we should be careful how we judge Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. You see, we all have our Shiva moments of life. Also, we are blundering, we are wanting to be devotee, plus at the same time we are not able to execute the service that is given to us, and that we are overcome by certain things. And all this is known to Krishna. All this is known to Krishna. But one sincerely executes his devotional service in spite of all this, remaining determined in Krishna consciousness. In the end, he is always successful. He always very nicely contributes to Krishna's leela, his pastimes, and his mission. This is a lesson we can learn from Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is very similar to Prabhupada's life too, in many ways. You can see, doing a very thankless, very difficult service to do. Lord Shiva carries the load. It is mentioned here. Avidya Patalam. Patalam means mass of people. He is followed by a mass of people who are all ignorant. He takes the load of these ignorant people. He takes responsibility for these ignorant people. He takes responsibility for making them Krishna conscious in a very indirect, different way. But to take such a responsibility is not so easy. To preach to very intelligent people who immediately understand Krishna consciousness and are following and very easily becoming devotees is one thing. But to preach to people who are atheistic, preach to people who are very much in tamogun, these are very challenging. It's very challenging. To take the burden of such preaching, Bhakti Vinod Swami Prabhupada took that burden. He went to the Western world and he preached Krishna consciousness very boldly. He went right up to the deep portals of the Western world and said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chant his holy name. You are his part and parcel. You are not a nobody. You have an identity. It's this. He very boldly mentioned this to everybody in this world. And there was no diplomacy about it. There was no indirect representation. It was direct. And he was very successful. And we are experiencing and enjoying the result of that success. So, a thankless, very difficult job to do, if it is done in Krishna consciousness, Krishna utilizes that person to actually perform a very valuable seva. Very valuable seva. So, these are Shiva moments. Sometimes also you may be entrusted with something like that. I mean, you take inspiration from Lord Shiva to execute these types of things because it is Krishna's desire. It's Krishna's desire. I heard from some devotee long back that Prabhupada came as a grihastha and to the Gaudiya Math, and he was listening to a class given by a sannyasi. Somebody here may know that better. I'm just recollecting sketchily. And he heard from the sannyasi saying, Prithivite yache jata nagaradi gram sarvatra prachar hoibe moranam, would mean not Prithvi. It's just figuratively used. It means Bengal, all the villages and towns and cities in Bengal. And then Prabhupada was disturbed hearing that. He was with his kid. And he was uneasy after the lecture got over, and he started talking to some of the senior devotees. How is it that he said that Prithvi means only Bengal? These are words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prithvi means Prithvi. And the Lord knows how to do it. He'll empower some dumb fool to do it if he wants to. And he will do it. And this way he made a comment, unbeknownst to him at that time, that he is that person who is going to carry this message all over the world. This is very amazing when I heard it first. But he was sincerely saying so. He believed in the fact that this will happen. And Krishna will find a way of doing it through some devotee. He may look very dumb to the outside world. He may look incompetent to the outside world. He may be covered with ashes. He may stay in the crematorium. Doesn't matter. Krishna will use him. And through his energy and this empowerment, he will preach all over the world if he wants to. Nimitta matram bhava savya sachin. Prabhupada is a person who understood this. I call this the Shiva principle. He understood the Shiva principle. It was deeply ingrained in him. He simply acted. I'm supposed to act, make an endeavor in this way. That's the best I could do. At least I could do this. At least I could do this. The least that I could do, I should do. The rest, I think I'll be empowered. In this way, this is an interesting, inspirational aspect from Lord Shiva that we can take. And similarly from Prabhupada. See? Some of these explanations given on Shiva Tattva, Prabhupada mentioned very deeply. Sometimes it's a little confusing to understand. It's this way, it's that way. And that's how it's supposed to be. It's neither black nor white. It is something else. So it's difficult for us to understand, but we understand it in terms of devotional service to Krishna. We understand it in terms of pure devotion. We can understand that. That's why I mentioned that Lord Chaitanya's followers have a greater relationship than even some of the devout Shaivites. They have a different type of understanding. A lower level understanding based on Lord Shiva's role in this world alone. But Shiva Tattva would mean that we understand he's a principle. And it's mentioned here that he is actually an expansion of Vishnu. At the same time, he is not Vishnu. So it's a different principle. And when in such a situation, Lord Shiva does his leelas, they look very amazing, and they can be misunderstood but can be best understood only by devotees. So Lord Shiva's character is very amazing. He's a very sober person, at the same time very peaceful. And when he needs to get angry, he does it. purposefully. His leela with Daksha, his father-in-law, and then we can see that how sober and how calm and collected he was. He didn't react, but where necessary, when things came to an extreme situation, he acted. And then he became very calm. And he was seen by the demigods who went to ask pardon from him. Also, Daksha followed with a goat's head. And when they asked him pardon, we acted wrongly and we did these things, he said, your demigods are all very childish. He used the word, you're kiddish. So, I don't take it seriously. But when I need to act, I act. And Daksha got a goat's head. When Daksha prayed, he said that you will continue like this. And he gave him benediction. Same way you will see Lord Shiva's devotee, Markandeya Rishi. Markandeya Rishi's beautiful pastime is mentioned in the Bhagavatam. And you will see that Markandeya Rishi in his younger ages was a very devout devotee of Shiva. He was born out of austerity done by his parents who didn't have children. And they wanted somebody to look after them. So finally, they were both worshippers of Shiva. Shiva benedicted them by saying that you will get a child, but he will last only for so long. When he comes to about teenage, he will actually die. That didn't matter to them. They got the child and they brought him up very affectionately, and he happened to be a brilliant, precocious child who learned many things and became a worshipper of Shiva. And at the right time, when they knew that the time has come and he may disappear, they became very sad because they developed such great affection for him. Markandeya was asked to worship Lord Shiva intimately, and he could do anything. So it's mentioned that Markandeya worshipped Lord Shiva very intimately. And at the time when Yamaraj came, he embraced the Shivalinga with his hands. And Yamaraj said, let go of the Shivalinga. Your time is over. I'm taking you back. He didn't, because I want to be with my parents. I don't want to die. So he prayed to Lord Shiva very intensely. And again, Yamaraj said, let go of the Shivalinga. But Markandeya Rishi didn't do that. So he put his noose on Shivalinga and Markandeya Rishi together and yanked. And Lord Shiva came out of the Shivalinga. And he said, how dare you do this to me? And then one story says that he killed Yamaraj. Another story says that Yamaraj fell down and surrendered to Shiva. And then he said, he will not die. He will remain Chiranjeevi. And in this way, Markandeya Rishi, for many, many kalpas, he is supposed to be alive. And you'll see the same Markandeya Rishi later in the Bhagavat, how he becomes a wonderful devotee of the Lord, and how he actually sees the Lord in Pralaya on a banyan leaf, very beautifully described. And that Markandeya Rishi is approached by Lord Shiva and Parvati. When they see him performing his austerities and his devotional service, let's meet with Markandeya Rishi and offer him something. And they descend on Markandeya Rishi. And Markandeya Rishi, when he is offered this type of a boon by Lord Shiva, he chooses to ask of him, Varamekam vrinayatapi purnat kama bivarshanat. You are able to give boons to satisfy kama abhivarshanat, to to satisfy people's desires. I ask you that I also be blessed to become a devotee of Achyuta like you. Tat pareshu tata tvai. This is the same Markandeya who was saved by Lord Shiva from Yamaraj. And he is asking him now, make me a devotee of Achyuta like you and such devotees so that I can serve you. And Lord Shiva very happily says, so be it, and blesses him with pure devotional service. That person who was earlier a staunch Shiva devotee, becoming Krishna's devotee and getting blessings from Lord Shiva to remain so as Krishna's devotee. These are amazing stories in the Bhagavatam. And I think a lot of Shiva worshippers should read them to understand who Shiva is, how he worships Sankarshana, how he is always in great meditation, how he is a deep devotee, willing and offering himself to services like preaching a philosophy that is much against Krishna consciousness, to do that as a service. Mayavadam asat shastram prachannam baudam uchyate maiva vihitam devi kalau brahmana rupina. In the Kali Yuga, I will come as a Brahmana and I will preach asat shastra, Mayavada. Prachannam baudam, I will preach prachanna. And it is actually Buddhist philosophy disguised. I will do that. I will do that personally. And he did that. He did that. But continued to remain a wonderful devotee at heart. So these are amazing things about Lord Shiva and Lord Shiva's character and his devotional service, which is so exalted and so deep. And we can learn a lot of lessons from that. So I will stop here and take any questions. Om Tat Sat, Hare Krishna, Rameshwar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj. I think it's very hard for us. For me, it sounds inconceivable that a devotee of Krishna would be able to preach against Krishna as his servant. I can't even begin to approach that understanding. But since you have explained, and since Prabhupada has given us the vision of Lord Shiva, you said in the beginning that in South India especially, the Shaivites and the Vaishnavas, they hate each other. How is that possible when it's clear in the Bhagavad Purana who Lord Shiva is? How is that?
Well, the Shaivites maybe did not pay much attention to the Bhagavad Purana. They have their Shaiva Agamas and they read their own stuff.
But the Vaishnavas hate the Shaivites?
The Vaishnavites are, I mean, I wouldn't use the word hate, sorry for using that.
Okay.
But sometimes they have an extreme understanding of demigods and especially Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, of course, in our understanding is not just a demigod. Prabhupada explains that he is called Mahadeva, the greatest of all the demigods, and is of a different category, is permanent. Brahma, Prabhupada explains, is a jiva, but Lord Shiva is not. He's of a different category. So, it is difficult for people to, we are not, you see, demigod worship and worship of Vishnu and things like that is one level of understanding Vaishnavism. It's one level of understanding Vaishnavism. But we are not just worshippers of Vishnu as God. We are worshippers of the absolute truth. He also functions like God. We are worshippers of the absolute truth. When we take that stance, then we can understand relatively who Lord Shiva is. But it's not always true that every worshipper of Vishnu is taking that stance of the absolute truth. Like in the Pancha Agama, you can worship Vishnu, Shaurya Agama, Shakta Agama, like that. Ganapati Agamas. There also there is Vishnu. But he may not be worshipped as the absolute truth. And when in Karma Kanda you also worship the Vishnu, you worship him as a person who is granting you all the facility. Maybe the understanding doesn't go beyond. But definitely it is Vedic because it is oriented towards following the Vedas and responding to Vishnu. So Vaishnavites also are at different levels. So they think demigods, Vishnu is the supreme, and demigods are nobody, which is true. But in our understanding, we worship demigods because they are devotees of Vishnu. We pay respects to them. We go to demigod temple and do Harinam Sankirtan. We ask blessings of the demigod that I become a devotee of Krishna, just like Markandeya Rishi did. It's a very advanced, very mature understanding of the demigods. Similarly of Lord Shiva. I think we have a very advanced, very mature understanding of Lord Shiva. We don't think Lord Shiva is Vishnu. We don't think Lord Shiva is Krishna. We don't respect him on the same level. But we respect him as a very exalted devotee, which I think is very mature and good understanding. So when I say that they're having a difference of opinion, sometimes it gets carried away because of incomplete understanding of the absolute truth and the associated paraphernalia. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnur aradhanam param tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samarchanam. So it's Lord Shiva who is also saying greater than worshipping the Lord is worship his devotees. And we have that philosophy. So I think I may have touched on your answer somewhere.
Just one quick follow-up. It seems from what you've described that the followers of Lord Shiva, especially these ghostly, devilish type characters, they have no idea that he is simultaneously, almost invisible to them, protecting the Dham from people entering who are not qualified. And then you said protecting Ras Leela from even who exalted souls who but not yet qualified to enter that. That's an amazing, I mean, he does this all at the same time.
Yes.
Preaches against Krishna and then protects the Ras Leela.
A variety of services. Amazing. You're right. You put it rightly. Thank you. Thank you. Somebody here has a question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please ask my obeisance. Exactly what does it mean, Lord Shiva protecting them, not allowing the people who don't have faith, because now it's Kali Yuga, all are rotten souls. So I want to know the exact meaning of that.
Well, it's Kali Yuga and all sorts of people go to the Dham, but it's not that everybody enters the Dham. Everybody physically can go to the Dham. We don't see the Dham like it is actually absolutely made out of Chintamani and precious jewels and the sand, Chintamani Prakarasatmashu Kalpavriksha. We don't see it. So you can enter because you don't see it. But if you really see it and you're against, then you will not enter. It's like that. It's not a very shallow understanding of saying that he protects the Dham. If you don't know, okay, but you may get to know by getting benefit from the Dham, as long as you're not offensive. It's the offensive people who will be stopped. So that's my understanding. Somebody else can offer a better understanding. But I think protector of the Dham is those who will come inside, offensive people who come inside and disturb the devotees. That is protecting. But people who are ignorant, and they may come to the Dham, they may go on a parikrama and get benefit and become knowledgeable by the mercy of the Lord, like that. Yes, Mataji.
Thank you, Maharaj, for such a wonderful class. As you are from South India, I would like some clarity on the position of Raghavendra Swami of Mantralayam and his relationship with Madhvacharya. If you can kindly explain that.
It's completely out of the subject matter of today, but
But this has been a burning question for me for a long time, so that's why I'm asking.
I'm not so knowledgeable about it. I've heard something in the distant past that Raghavendra is incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj and all that. Many things. I've heard many things. So I don't know exactly what to start with. Better I talk to you after the class. But because hearsay, we hear many things from many people. So it's not that everything is the truth. Aidiham is one form of pramana. Aidiham means traditionally understood and therefore taken to be a proof. Sometimes in that Aidiham pramana, you have too many alternatives and too many, one contradicting the other, then you don't know which to accept. So this is something like that. There are many versions of it. They're all Madhva clan. I shouldn't say I know that very well enough to help you with that immediately. Maybe some research is required.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. Oh, all right. I thought I'll finish on the dot at 9 o'clock.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful class. Maharaj, you mentioned that we should not judge Vaishnavas based on their behavior. We also know that it is actually offensive. But we also know that one can climb to the Madhyama platform only when he knows how to discriminate among Vaishnavas and deal with them appropriately. So how to overcome this dilemma?
Well, can you repeat the question?
One should not judge Vaishnavas based on their behavior. This is what you mentioned, Maharaj. But we also know that one should learn to discriminate among Vaishnavas so that we can deal with them appropriately on the proper level. Then only we are called a Madhyama devotee. So how do we climb from being a neophyte to a Madhyama if we are not allowed to discriminate? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you should be, if you want to discriminate, you should be very sure about the knowledge and information that you have. Discrimination comes from information and knowledge first. You gather that, right? So be careful whether that discrimination is based on the proper information and knowledge. Like Lord Shiva took it upon himself to cut off the head of Daksha. He sent his man, do everything necessary. He cut off the head. He took a decision to do it. It's very offensive. Daksha, Prajapati. Are you going to judge Lord Shiva like that? He remained very cool after doing that. He was seen with rishis and sages under a big banyan tree discussing Krishna. This is in the Bhagavatam. After he did this, he knows he has done right. Right? So you may judge Lord Shiva in this way or that way. Therefore, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra, it is mentioned that a Vaishnava's actions externally should simply not be judged in a simple manner. They will have an intention behind. It's mentioned, what is it, other shloka that says that if you see Nityananda Prabhu coming out of a, shop where you drink liquor, you won't immediately think that Nityananda Prabhu had 2 pigs. Definitely not, isn't it? He went there for a purpose. He must have gone to preach to Jagai and Madai in that place. Same way, when we see a Vaishnava in an external situation that is very questionable, first thing you must do at face value is assume the right thing. You must have gone there to do this, the correct thing. But if you are not very mature enough, and if you don't know deeply about that Vaishnava, you may immediately conclude many things, which means it's in your immaturity, with misinformation or with incomplete information. Restrain yourself from coming to a conclusion. If necessary, go and ask the devotee why, what, when, where, and take it at face value. Don't trouble yourself with speculations. It's not worth it, because the other side of speculation is offense. Better remain on the safe side of speculation. That's it. So, in your judgment, sometimes you have a desire to accomplish, and you may have a confirmation bias in confirming it in one particular way. So beware. I mean, you need to really watch. You need to watch and manage your subtle body before you come to conclusions. That's the meaning of saying control your mind and senses. Control all the prompts that are coming to you under the modes of material nature. That you should be able to control it and look at it intelligently and see how it helps you in devotional service, and then make a judgment. So it's mind management a little bit, thought management maybe. So don't do that so simply. Now, if you're a devotee of the Lord and you have achieved a certain level of devotion, you don't have to take care of this with intelligence and this and that. You may be on a different platform. It doesn't bother you much. So you tend to think that, okay, I'm okay with whatever the face value information that I had. It's okay for me. I don't want to probe and I don't want to do certain things. The problem comes when you're in an institution and then you're in a responsible position and different people come and tell you different things. And you're charged with the responsibility for taking a decision. Then it becomes very difficult. For that, we need another seminar and a workshop. Om Tat Sat. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Nittai Guru Premanande.
Jai Jai.